Magic and Sorcery in the Early Church.
Chapter 1. The Magic of Words. No study of ancient texts in any context can ignore the overwhelming importance attributed to the power of words. A word is a symbol that points to a deeper concept, and words that direct us to spiritual principles are portals to a universe of profound understanding. In the modern world, we tend to consider words more like a sign, something present, fixed, and visible. But a symbol is more than a mere sign. We can take a photograph or make a drawing of an object that we see, but we cannot catch a word in this same way. Either the sound is moving or it is not there. It is never still. As the anthropologist Walter Ong so eloquently puts it when describing the mystique of words for oral cultures, quote, Homer refers to them with the standard epithet, winged words, which suggests effervescence, power, and freedom. Words are constantly moving, but by flight, which is a powerful form of movement, and one lifting the flyer free from the ordinary, gross, heavy, objective world. Unquote. Ong's description here throws into relief the specificity inherent in the modern attitude to words by its contrast to the flexibility of oral cultures. In the modern world, we are continually involved in a program of strict definition and compartmentalization of the world. For ancient and tribal cultures, however, things are not as black and white as the modern mindset would prefer to paint them, and this is reflected in a very different use of language. To understand ancient texts, we have to forget many of our rationalist modern preconceptions and understand the mindset and worldview of ancient writers. In fact, we need to actually redefine many important words that carry a meaning for us today that are at odds with the way they were understood by ancient people. The academic study of the origins of Christianity has turned into an all-out war, and one of the fiercest fought fronts is over the question as to whether or not borrowing from sources outside Jesus' Jewish context influenced the religion. The importance of the concepts contained within a culture's language is a principle that is noticeably absent on both sides of the debate. This theme will be wrapped around various discussions below, and especially the contact of Christianity with the Hellenistic mystery religions. The earliest extant fragments and manuscripts of the New Testament were written in Greek. Furthermore, it was common for many Jewish people in the time of Jesus to read the Hebrew Bible in a Greek translation, the most popular of which was known as the Septuagint. This language, like all languages, and especially ancient ones, had a huge web of interconnected concepts that were understood within and between the words that were used. There are important Hellenistic concepts that entered into Judaism and subsequently Christianity merely by the fact that this language was used for a great deal of the transmission of their theology. There are also examples where Greek was used in new or unusual ways to retain traditional Jewish concepts about God, and these were also brought into Christianity. This subject of the different and often deeper meaning behind words is a thread that will weave its way throughout our journey as we explore the necessary concepts to embrace the ancient mindset and vocabulary. Another specific example of this is the Greek word muthos or mythos, which is often taken to mean simply fiction in the modern English terms myth and mythology. The Western, now globalizing post-Enlightenment worldview has encountered no end of problems coming to terms with the mythic level of ancient writing, and this is especially the case with the Bible. It is not only Christian theologians, but also commentators from outside the faith who struggle with the many metaphors in the stories. And this is despite the fact that Jesus is attributed to have favored the medium of parables to teach his audiences. The influential German theologian Rudolf Bultmann, for example, stated that the mythic aspects of the text are, quote, an expression of an irrational, childish state of humanity, unquote. With a single swift sweep, Bultmann and his many followers have dismissed the deeper meanings contained within the mythic narratives and have pronounced the most important of the stories to be impotent. This view betrays a lack of understanding of basic literary criticism with regards to ancient texts. Hesiod was one of the earliest extant Greek poets and flourished circa 700 BCE. In his work on the origin of the gods, Theogony, Hesiod states that the Muses tell him that although they like to dress up their myths in pleasing apparel, they nevertheless also tell unvarnished truths. And that's at lines 25 to 28. This is the reason that Greek poets will often make supplication to one or more of the Muses at the beginning of their tales. These invocations are a plea to the Muse to share their knowledge with the poet, and are also the provenance for the truth of the tale. The important aspect to note here is that a myth for ancient people may not have been literally true, but it contained a deeper hidden truth that, because of its profound nature, was open to a variety of interpretations. Taking this into account, we have to understand that the Gospels were written with a great deal of parable or symbolic allegory that was not written to be read literally. As the Bible scholar and former monk John Dominic Crossan laments, quote, my point, once again, is not that those ancient people told literal stories and we are now smart enough to take them symbolically, but that they told them symbolically and we are now dumb enough to take them literally, unquote. This brings us to another problematic word that has created a great deal of scholarly debate with regards to its definition. The terms Gnostic and Gnosticism come from the Greek word gnosis, which means knowledge. The terms are used today in academic as well as popular literature to mean a group of people who believed that rather than coming from faith, one needed to learn a particular hidden secret to achieve enlightenment or salvation. Now, I am not trying to suggest that this is not the case. Quite the reverse. What this modern category often fails to recognize is that this concept of a deep gnosis or knowledge, which is available only to the elect, is a theme that is played out in the vast majority of religions in the ancient world, as well as in primal or tribal cultures, and it was included in some of the earliest writings of Christianity. While it is true that Christianity was open to all classes and genders, which was one of the many reasons it grew so rapidly, there was still an inherent hierarchy of gnosis in the various strands as they were developing. This is true for those strands that later became the mainstream, the proto-orthodox, as well as those that were considered on the outside of that. This concept was the original basis for the divisions of authority in the church. At Mark 4:11, for example, Jesus is attributed to have said to the disciples, the secret of the kingdom of God has been given to you, but to those on the outside everything is said in parables. There are 27 references in the New Testament to the secret layer of teaching. The Greek used here that becomes translated in the New International Version as secret is mysterion, which means mysteries. Mysterion can be understood as, among other things, a hidden thing or a religious secret, confided only to the initiated and not to ordinary mortals. Mysterion comes from mueo, which means to initiate into the mysteries, hence to instruct. This word is used in only one occasion in the New Testament, and it is by Paul in his letter to the Philippians at 4:12, where he states that he has been initiated. This was part of his own claim to authority over the church that he had established. We will explore the contact between Christianity and the mystery religions in detail further on, but this discussion provides a good introduction to the overall subject because The mystery religions were forms of religiosity that emphasized secret, even guarded teaching. This subject has special interest for us because while the mysteries are not normally associated with what commentators usually include under the term magic, phenomena identified as being integral to magic, such as divination, healing, and spirit possessions, were known to have been frequently experienced by initiates and adepts in the mystery rituals. It is perfectly reasonable, therefore, to consider the mysteries as examples of magic. Apart from its use in the New Testament, the concept of a mystery element also had a strong precedent in Judaism. The Greek term mysterion appears in the Septuagint in, for example, the second chapter of the book of Daniel in relation to the prophets interpreting the dream of Nebuchadnezzar. This narrative, coincidentally enough, mentions the kingdom of God at 2:44. The God of heavens will set up a kingdom that will never be destroyed. As illustrated above in the quote from Mark at 4:11, God's kingdom was, by all accounts, a favorite theme of Jesus, and it is very often tied into this element of mystery. At Daniel 2:47, it is written, "The king said to Daniel, 'Surely your God is the God of gods and the Lord of kings and a revealer of mysteries, for you were able to reveal this mystery.'" In Greek, and especially Hebrew, this one sentence has a huge depth of meaning that is lost in the modern translations. There is a beautiful poetic passage in the book of Job at 38:1-41, which explains at length the mysterious nature of God.